Good evening. I want to thank all of you for taking the time from your schedule to come and give us, your opinion on things. So we really want to thank you for coming to the committee tonight. Okay, Mr. Clerk, what do we have going?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. We have 3 items on the agenda. Item number 1 is motion Weston Koretz Martinez et al. And City Administrative Officer and Chief Legislative Analyst joint report relative to Proposition D, Medical Cannabis Dispensaries and Adult Use of Cannabis Act. Item number 2 is a communication from the City Clerk and resolutions relative to consolidating the city's primary nominating election and the city's special election for 4 ballot measures to be held on March 7, 2017, with a possible special countywide election to be held on the same date. And item number 3 is a communication from the City Clerk relative to approving the ballot order and letter designation request for the 4 ballot measures to be placed on the March 7, 2017 City of Los Angeles primary nominating election.
Thank you very much. Since item 1 is going to take a little time, maybe we'll go let's take up items 2 and 3. So I have some public comment cards. So I want to start out with Beverly Palmer and Jill Stewart. And I have a card. I can't make this out, so I'm not going to call on them unless they write their name so I can read it. Okay? All right. Please come forward.
Good evening, council members, and thank you. I'm Beverly Palmer. I'm here on behalf of the Coalition to Preserve LA, the proponents of the Neighborhood Integrity Initiative. We request that you allow the proponents to have a say in what letter you designate on the ballot for the March 7th election. I've provided a form. You should have it in front of you attached to a letter from me that's used by the Los Angeles County Registrar of Voters. Assuming that you do consolidate the election with the county will be the one that assigns the letters. This form is used to request a letter. Jurisdictions may submit it to the county registrar, and we request that you submit the form that I've provided in lieu of the designation that was selected by the city clerk's office to allow the committee to have a preference and express that preference to the county for the letter that is assigned. And we have expressed a preference for S, P, or R. Thank you very much.
Okay. I just hope somebody can tell me why. I'm just curious. Maybe the next speaker will. Ms. Stewart?
Thank you very much. My name is Jill Stewart. I'm the campaign director for the Coalition to Preserve LA. I know that you 3 elected leaders do not want the City Hall system to appear to be rigged, especially in the wake of the Seabreeze developer scandal now swirling through City Hall and being investigated by the DA. We're a movement that is trying to take back our city from powerful developers and chart a better future for residents, not for special interests. The designation on the ballot right now that we would be receiving is prejudicial to our efforts. We'll make very certain, if we are stuck with this letter, that voters know that it's prejudicial. I think you merely assigned us a bad designation and did not attend to, and we would appreciate it very much if you would honor our request to change the designation.
Okay, I'm just curious if you can give me a moment. Why is this a prejudicial bad choice? Where did that come from?
Well, I'm not
I can understand you not liking the number, but to come in and say prejudicial, had nothing to, I don't understand what you're talking about. So why is that presidential? Presidential. I don't get this.
Well, it's a letter, not a number, and the letter rhymes with a word I'm not going to say out loud, but our opponents would love to say out loud. So we think it's the worst possible letter in the alphabet to be assigned. And we know that you choose great letters for things you believe in, like L for the library bond and R for your reform when you added 4 extra years to your own terms in office. So we would also like a letter that is fair and decent. And the current letter is a classic attack letter against our measure.
Well, I don't think when the numbers came up, anybody was, thinking that. I
That-
mean, I will
yeah.
consider what you say, but you come up and you accuse people of something, and nobody even thought about that. But okay, so
I didn't
next,
accuse you. I said I don't think you did it on purpose.
next speaker is Mr. Spindler.
Go ahead.
So, yes, I think that you do everything intentionally when it's evil because you love developers. You love their campaign donations. So you say it's sucking the campaign donations into one's pocket, and you put that letter. I can't even say that letter, and I say everything here, and I can't even say what that letter is. It's very disrespectful for such a great proposition. So we should put down, it should be called Measure C for corruption. Yes, that's what we're trying to stop corruption for 2 years, to stop the renegade developers drunk on too many overdevelopments, too many spot zonings. Upstairs on the 10th floor right now, they're trying to get an illegal liquor license and all kinds of criminal behavior. And only Commissioner Daphne stands in the way tonight. Yes, so we're going to support the great Commissioner Daphne Brogdon. So, again, change the letter. Listen to Jill Stewart. Yes, you have to listen to her because she'll go back to her old job and be exposing people here and putting them in jail. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Herman?
Mr. Speaker, there is nothing offensive about the P word mentioned by the first applicant, but my word of DC defines the word destructive corruption by this body and this board that has housed the city primaries for elections by fraud and corruption. Now, whether I'm stimulating the fact as a truth or if I'm rigging it off topic, then you have something to say as you interrupt me under the Ralph M. Brown Act 54950. So, in further words, you should just learn just to keep quiet and allow the speaker to speak for 1 fucking minute.
Well, your minute is almost up.
And as I come down to my 9 seconds, motherfuckers, I just want you to know, vote no, and I object to this rule. 1 minute, fuck you.
God bless you. God bless you, Mr. Herman, because I know you're sick, and I just hope you get well, okay? All right, Miss Stewart and your crew, I'm going to think on this for a little while. Where are you? Where are you? I want to think on this for a minute, so I'm not going to vote on it right now. I want to start the other hearing. Maybe you could stick around for a bit, and then, because I don't get it, but it doesn't sound, I don't know. Give me a couple seconds to think about it. Okay, so we're going to put that on hold, and we're going to now go to item 1, Mr. Clerk. And let's, folks, if you want to speak, there should be cards that you could fill out and give them to the sergeant. I'm going to try to call everybody that I can. Mona Nister. And if I mispronounce your name, I apologize in advance. Thank you. Matt Garland. Hal Lewis. Please come forward. Ma'am, just don't worry about the order. You're there first. Just come and identify yourself. Yes.
Okay.
Hi, my name's Mona Nisker. I'm an LA resident with an interest in growing cannabis for recreational use. And I'm just a concerned citizen. And the primary reason why is because of the difference that cannabis, particularly CBD, has made in our lives, specifically for my loved ones. CBD is the type of cannabis that doesn't get the user stoned. I've seen the miracles that it can perform. And my husband and I have someone close to us with advanced multiple sclerosis, someone who could barely stay awake for more than 6 hours a day, had limited motor function, and also had tremors so bad that she had limited hand control. And after using CBD daily, I think it's important for you to know that she's awake from 7 until midnight, can hold a detailed conversation, and her tremors are gone. And I feel like it's important for her to have access to delivery for someone who's unable to maneuver.
Thank you. Come on forward.
Good evening. Good to see you again.
Good to see you again.
My name is Hal Lewis, and I want to thank you for the job that you're doing.
Thank you.
And I'm a little confused, so I need some help, please, or clarification. On the L050s, just recently, in the last few weeks, we've canceled, or the city has canceled, over 800 tax permits for good people, that good players we were talking about before that have been paying their taxes and doing the right thing with the city. The city has reissued now over 174 pink slips of L050s. The Prop Ds, when last time I heard, there was only 135, and from the organization GLACA, they said maybe only 70 of them still existed. So from that 70 or that 135 to now being 174 pink sheet L050s allowed to be permitted to do business in the city of LA, where did that happen, and what happens with the L050s that have now been canceled? I'm sorry for my time.
No, thank you. I'll look into that.
Okay, and may I call you during the week?
You can call the office. We'll get back with you.
Thank you so much.
Next speaker, please come forward and identify yourself.
Good evening, Councilman. My name is Matt Garland. I'm with the Central San Pedro Neighborhood Council. I'm the chairman of the Ad Hoc Committee on Marijuana Regulations. And our committee's focus is on community values and family safety. And that includes safe access to cannabis, the dissolution of the gray market, economic empowerment, and protections for families under civil law. We support a broad-based and inclusive licensing to encourage the dissolution of the gray market and rogue operators. Inclusive licensing will give the strength of enforcement back to the city. We support small businesses and the cottage industry to encourage community stewardship ethic and broad-based economic empowerment. Lastly, our committee supports family safety, which includes asking for your consideration to include strong parental protection language to extend the criminal reforms in marijuana policy to the civil court. Parental rights have been overlooked in policy reform, and families are still at risk, and parents are still in danger of losing their rights over exercising what is a state legal activity by using cannabis.
Hey, Matt, what neighborhood council did you say?
Central San Pedro.
Well, you know, I just appreciate that you guys recognize the importance of this and you create a committee within the council to have conversations. You know, so I think that's, I hope more neighborhood councils do that. So thank you, sir.
Thank you.
If I could get, who do I have behind you?
My name is Nate Johnson. I am chair of the Government Liaison Committee for the Downtown Los
Nate, I'm going to
Angeles
let you
Neighborhood
sneak
Council.
up here. I didn't call you.
Okay,
You beat me to the punch. No, I'm going to let you finish.
thank you. And thank you for the opportunity to allow the neighborhood councils to participate in this process of establishing these important regulations throughout the city. We do have a community impact statement submitted, but unfortunately it wasn't in time to be posted on the agenda. But it has most of our comments, and then I'll be brief otherwise considering time here and the slew of information to come. We just believe that there should be an opportunity for input from neighborhood councils when permits will be issued for recreational or medical marijuana businesses, similar to the conditional use approval process for alcohol licenses. Also, we've consistently heard from our Skid Row Central City East stakeholders that they do not want those sorts of businesses within the boundaries, and we believe it's important to share that information with you here. And we also think this should be an opportunity to consider rules for public consumption in high-density areas like downtown.
Okay. Hey, Nate, wait 1 minute. One of the things that we're trying to do, Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, for the next hearing is try to put together a panel of neighborhood council folk. Because I want the industry people to hear from the council, the councils, their concerns, fears, support, not support. So you may get a call from us. So if you could make sure we get a phone number on you, or maybe even Matt, we might ask you to participate if you're free.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, man. Okay, so before we go into our presentation, let me get Zachary Pitts and Seth Hilsenbeck. Yeah. Hey.
Hi, my name is Zachary Pitts. I've spoken before you a number of times, and I'm with the Los Angeles Delivery Alliance, and I don't mean to belabor the point, but we are definitely invested in fair licensing for all types of marijuana businesses. I come here really more to hear community input, and I'm very excited to hear that input. We really, as an industry, want to work with everyone in this city to find the best outcome to get the jobs, the taxes, and the happiness that LA deserves. So thank you very much for holding this hearing, and have a good day.
No, I thank you guys for participating. Yes, sir.
Good evening, gentlemen. I am Seth Hilsenbeck, CEO of Quality Concentrates. We're a local Los Angeles business that specializes in making medicinal-grade cannabis concentrates. And I just want to continue the conversation to let you know that we are here to keep the conversation open and help you guys implement the appropriate regulations that need to be put into place for this section of the industry, because a lot of the nuisances have been from people going about this process in the wrong way, and those are the ones that actually make it into the news and cause a lot of the problems. And we're here to show you that things can be done the right way, and we're already continuing to follow things that are being done in regulated states, and want to continue that conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, just let me say, again, I think it's next week we're going to have another hearing. I want to try to get neighborhood council representatives to participate. I think I'll have the next one after that. I'm going to invite, we're looking into a way to invite spokesfolk from the governments that have approved, so we can have them come in, and I hope we get participation from the, folk like this, but we want to hear from them, the ups and downs, and so we're really trying to have a set of hearings that educate people and educate ourselves. So thank you for coming.
Thank you, sirs.
Okay, now one of my favorites, Kat. I want you and Tomir, Kat Packard, and Tomir, I always mess up your last name, so I'm going to let you come up here and say it again. It is good to see you again.
It's great to see you. Good evening. My name is Kat Packer. For the last 4 months, I have served as the campaign coordinator for Californians for Responsible Marijuana Reform. And during this 4 months, we campaigned in support of Proposition 64, which is now law. I look forward to working with City Council to implement Proposition 64, specifically focusing on ways to make the industry more inclusive. One of the ways that we make the industry more inclusive is by diversity hiring, but then also to make sure that industry participants contribute to repairing the harms of the drug war. Secondly, one of the other things that I would like to work with the council on is specifically working to make sure that Los Angeles opts into on-site consumption as allowed under Proposition 64. Thank you.
Okay. And you said diversity in hiring.
Yes.
I'd like to have a conversation about diversity in ownership.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We need diversity in hiring and diversity in ownership. Absolutely.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
All right, man. Come on up here and give me your last name again. And it's getting like, I know people now. I know
Fair
some
enough.
of you guys.
The name is Tomer Graciani. And
Okay,
it's easy to remember because
Graciani.
it starts with grass, which is...
I'm going to throw something at you. Okay, go ahead.
Well, thank you very much for holding this hearing again. In the last hearing, one of the things that you guys brought up was public consumptions, and I remember you asking why would people want to consume on premises.
Yes, I did ask that question.
Well, I think there's a few reasons, and I'll give you an example. About 3.5 years ago, I was in Barcelona, Spain, visiting. Beautiful place, weather, people, food, and I happened to go across a storefront that had plastered, like, posters of cannabis leaves in there, and I asked what they were, and I was told that these are public clubhouses, kind of, that are cannabis clubs that anyone can go and become a member of and sign in. And I went into one of those, and there's a bunch of couches where people can sit and a big TV where people can play video games, and it seems like a normal club, fun environment. Another couple of places that you might not think about are, there's a lot of yoga studios that want to incorporate cannabis in there, and they would need a public consumption license.
But let me ask you this, and I got to get to other folk. Was that like a dispensary, or was it a separate place that was just, let's say, a club?
It was a place that was about the size of this room,
Really?
divided. And they had a bunch of different areas where you can sit down, a bunch of sofas. You could go to a bud tender. It was very casual, where you would be able to purchase any of the selection that they had. They had probably about 6 different flowers and 4 different strains of hash. They were also selling alcohol in there as well.
Okay.
And had different tables where you can sit,
All right.
but it was very casual selection.
All right.
And just back to the other...
No, your time is up. I asked you an extra question. I'll see you at the next hearing. You've been to every one. So thank you. No, if I give you more, I got to give everybody else more. Okay, good to see you. What I'm going to do, I'm going to call 2 folk, and then I'm going to get into the report from our city staff, if that's okay with you guys. So if I can get Sarah Armstrong, who's a regular. I saw you back there. And Jackie Subek. It is good to see you again.
Good to see you. I come before you tonight as the Industry Director for Americans for Safe Access, and I'm here to talk about on-site consumption. I know a little bit about this because my boss founded the first vapor lounge in Berkeley in 1996 as part of the Berkeley Patients Group. It was never intended to be a bar environment. It arose out of necessity. In Berkeley, at that time, if you had public housing, you could not medicate on site. You had to go somewhere else. Berkeley Patients Group had a large room. They supervised those coming in, how much they could consume and how long they could stay. And over time, it became a safe, comfortable place for people who were poor and could not, by the terms of their lease, Medicaid. That was the origin of that kind of use in this country, and I hope that one day we may be farsighted enough to allow such centers for the poor. They became political and rallying places where people could talk about a great many things.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I have, okay. Yes, ma'am.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm Jackie Subek. I'm Vice Chair of Women Grow Los Angeles, which is an organization to educate people in the cannabis industry. First, let me say for the record that I am also very much in favor of on-site consumption, and I find that the fact that in Prop 64 there's no alcohol alongside of it should give everybody a breath of fresh air. Just say, okay, this is just going to be a marijuana consumption environment.
Hold her time.
Yeah.
Hold her time.
Say,
I want to talk about that. I'm
Okay.
just curious. Why should you separate it? How come you couldn't have it together? Is that a good idea, bad idea? So I'm not asking you yet, but we're going to be going through a series of hearings, and I want to understand why we should do certain things. But anyway, so, and any suggestions that you guys have, just send us a note. And if we can incorporate them into our hearing process, we'll do that. We want this to be fair, and we want as many people from this city to participate as possible. So start again and finish, and I'm sorry for the interruption.
that's okay, and we thank you for listening. What I really want to talk about, though, is exactly what you just said, which is fair. I deal with many, many different kinds of businesses in the cannabis industry. I've come across some amazing business owners, and I've grown up in Los Angeles. I've been here for my entire life, and this has always been a city that's taken risks to some degree. Some degree it's conservative, but I think this time around it's really important to pay attention to the quality of people that we're bringing into this industry and that you're going to license, and that it should be fair across the board, because there's, am I over time?
Yes, you are.
Oh,
I'm going to give
okay.
you 5 extra seconds.
Okay, so all right, all in all, I just want you to be able to pay attention to businesses, good businesses, and pay attention to really quality people that for the community as you're looking at licensing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, if I could have the city staff come forward. And before, Mateus, before we start, Mr. Clerk, I want to quickly switch back to 2 and 3. I don't see. Andrew, where are they? Where are they? Okay, tell them I was going to vote on it. Okay, we'll wait till after the report then. So why don't you go ahead?
Good evening, committee members. Matthias Farfan for the Chief Legislative Analyst's Office.
Jason Klein for the City Administrative Office.
And tonight we're going to make a PowerPoint presentation. It's very brief.
Go ahead.
Afterwards, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. It's up on the screens, too, for the public to see. The first slide is a brief background of where we started and where we're at today. And pretty much on November 5th, 1996, California enacted Prop 215 and became the first state to establish a medical marijuana program. After many starts and stops, in May 2013, the city enacted Prop D to provide an enforcement and regulatory framework for medical marijuana dispensaries in the absence of state regulation. I'd just like to add that Prop D does not involve the issuance of a license or permit. And then in 2015, the state enacted MCRSA, which is short for Medical Cannabis Regulation and Safety Act. The MCRSA recognizes a large range of medical marijuana businesses, such as cultivation, product manufacturing, distribution and transportation, testing laboratories, and dispensaries. And finally, on November 8th, 2016, the Adult Use of Marijuana Act, AUMA, generally legalizes the cultivation, possession, and use of recreational marijuana by adults 21 years and over. And I'll just take us to slide number 2, which is a brief summary of the Medical Cannabis Regulation and Safety Act. MCRSA requires medical marijuana businesses to obtain a state license and local license permit in order to operate lawfully within California, which means medical marijuana businesses need to obtain a local license permit in order to obtain the state license. MCRSA divides state licensing and enforcement responsibilities among 3 agencies. The Department of Food and Agriculture is set up it will issue medical marijuana cultivation licenses. The Department of Consumer Affairs, which will issue licenses for medical marijuana dispensaries, distributors, and transporters. And 3, the Department of Public Health, which will issue licenses for medical marijuana manufacturers and testing laboratories. The next slide provides a summary of the Adult Use of Marijuana Act, which was recently approved by the voters of California. AUMA's passage legalizes recreational marijuana throughout the state and allows the city, at its sole discretion, to institute a licensing system for cultivation, manufacturing, processing, distribution, and testing of marijuana. And the AUMA does not contain a dual licensing requirement, such as the MCRSA. And marijuana-related businesses can apply for a state license without having to show proof of compliance with local regulations. And I'll turn it over to Jason to complete the presentation.
So the city has multiple regulatory options available. One is to establish a formal regulatory framework. Since MCRSA establishes a state framework for regulating all aspects of the medical marijuana industry, the city has the option of allowing some or all such businesses through some form of local regulatory permit license system. The city also has a permissive zoning ordinance. Therefore, the zoning code is drafted in a fashion such that any use not enumerated therein is presumptively prohibited. So effectively, if the city doesn't allow for the use, it's an illegal use within the city. And then the third option is an express ban. MCRSA recognizes a range of new medical marijuana businesses, including cultivators, manufacturers, distributors, transporters, and testing laboratories. The city may opt to ban all or specific activities under MCRSA. So far, our offices have released 7 different report backs on these issues. The report backs include issues requiring an environmental analysis of best practices regarding operating, land use, and inspection requirements, analysis of land use compatibility for various types of marijuana-related businesses, analysis of tax rates for marijuana-related businesses, penalties to discourage illegal activities, analysis of administrative costs to regulate medical marijuana-related businesses, and social justice and equity issues. And that concludes our formal presentation.
Thank you. Mr. Weezar, did you have any?
Thank you. I understand that this item is also coming through Plum with respect to land use issues. We will have a report, I think it's next Tuesday, in the Planning, Land Use, and Management Committee. From the CLA and CAO-CLA perspective, are you also working with the planning department on that and coordinating what's happening in this committee? I just want to make sure that's happening.
Yes, sir. We're working with Lynn Wyatt, who is the zoning administrator for the City of Los Angeles, as well as the Office of the City Attorney, to basically form the report backs that will be presented to the Plum Committee next week.
Okay, thank you. And, well, that's all for now, Mr. Chair. Fine.
Okay, thank you. Why don't you stick around for a bit? There may be some other questions. Let me call on Christopher Bruce and Ed Cooney. Please come forward. Yolanda's here somewhere. Where are you? Yolanda? Is she out in the hall? There, I see her. Okay, come on up, guys.
Hi there, I'm Ed Cooney. I'm a small business owner. My main concern was mentioned already by Hal about the LO50s that were taken away and the path that the local businesses have remaining if they're not one of the 134. I think there's an unfair advantage being given to them by taking out one of the few pieces of paperwork to be compliant that we had. It gives an unfair advantage to the 134, and it prevents smaller businesses from being able to be developed and get going before the deadline for state licensing. So those are my concerns.
Next, please.
Hello, my name is Christopher Bruce. Thank you again for having these hearings and this conversation. I think it's great that the public and everybody's getting together. I just wanted to express my concern saying that, I really am for the Prop 64, but also I feel that there's a lot of restrictions against people that have tried to do medicinal marijuana businesses and trying to get licensed, and it seems like it's taboo. A lot of the cities that we've already looked at, they're taking an urgency to shut down everything, like South Bay and all these areas, and it seems like it's just making it difficult and promoting more of the illegal activities that I kind of witnessed doing security work. So I just want to open up a dialogue and express my concerns and say that, I am for regulation, but, we need to give safe access without criminalizing and punishing our constituents. And thank you.
Hello.
Hello, good evening, council members. Thank you for having us here.
My name is Yolanda Aldaz. I am with DC Collective, members of the UCBA Association. And really, I'm just here tonight to say thank you to you all for giving us the opportunity to work with you and allowing us to be able to bring forth our community and to be able to, more than anything, really just have you guys listen and take all the groups that are in here and taking us into consideration to continue this industry. I know that the holidays are around the corner, so just really thank you. I know it's hard to be here at 6 p.m. and more than anything, thank you for allowing our industry to continue to do what they're doing and flourish with more of your input and your work, your hard work with us.
Have you missed any hearings?
I have.
When?
I have an 8-month-old and a 4-year-old. So
No, I think it seems like I remember you for everyone. Let me get Daniel Sosa.
I'm very glad that you remembered.
I remember a lot of you. So if I could get Daniel, is that you? Okay.
I'm Daniel Sosa. I operate La Brea Collective, one of the property compliant dispensaries in District 10.
Yes.
And also represent GLACA, Greater Los Angeles Collectives Alliance, which is a part of the Southern California Coalition. And I'm also on the Pico Neighborhood Council. And I just want to say I'm so happy to be here talking with you guys about regulating our industry. It's a lot different than it was a few years ago. Really happy that we're at that point now. As far as on-site consumption, I think it's an important aspect to consider, either in dispensaries or just as a separate license for cafes or something along those lines, like a social lounge. Also, just want to reiterate that the importance of protecting the properties and giving the property-compliant dispensaries priority licensing. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you. In fact, I'll put it on hold. I'm going to go to items 2 and 3 now, Mr. Clerk. And so my recommendation is that we, without objection, we will approve these items with item 3 being amended to change O to S, which is the request, okay? To let you know there's no conspiracy or anything like that. It's just, I don't understand. What's a letter? But anyway, with that said, without objection, that'll be the order. Okay, can I get Kevin Moo? Kevin? And David? Is it Raquel?
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. Just for clarification, the committee is approving item number 2 and item number 3?
Yes.
With the...
item 3 is amended to...
With the change from O to
S.
letter S?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I also been told we should add an amendment that we put them in alpha order, okay? All right, so...
My name is Kevin Moe. I'm one of the principals of Low in Theory, a world-renowned weekly club night in Lincoln Heights that has run every Wednesday for the last 10 years straight. I've actually shared the stage with Mr. Huizar before at the Eagle Rock Music Festival. Hello, Councilman. We also produce an annual 5,000-person festival at the Shrine Auditorium, co-produced by AEG Live, as well as regular events at the El Rey, Fonda, and Roxy Theaters. In addition, I own Alpha Pub Records, one of the largest independent music distributors in the world, and also was nominated for a Grammy last year with Kendrick Lamar. Los Angeles being the entertainment capital of the world, we stand to innovate the marijuana industry in a number of ways. In a perfect world, if on-site consumption is allowed and permitted by the city of Los Angeles, then we propose to build a new music venue, utilizing my engineering expertise in building recording studios to create the best-sounding small club in the Western U.S., without alcohol, but with recreational marijuana for sale during the shows. Only with your help and regulation can this be done in a safe and proper manner. Thank you, council members, for your time and consideration. Bless you for your service to the city.
Thank you. Donnie, where are you? I saw you earlier. And do I have a David? I think it's David Raquel. and Verlinda maybe too. So please come forward. And Akili. All right, Donnie, good to see you.
You too. Thank you for having us this evening. Hey, Mr. Weezer, how you doing? All right. It's just a pleasure to be able to work with the City Council to finally get some work done for the medical cannabis industry. We've been fighting for a long time to get this done, and we finally at the threshold to make it happen. I just want to say thank you so much, and we are LA, and we are going to continue to fight for LA. Keep outsiders out as long as we can. We've been paying our taxes for way too long, born and raised right here in these bricks. So I just want to say thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I'm looking for, I see Akili, but is there a David and Belinda here? They had to leave. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, okay, so let's get Akili and David Green. Go ahead, Akili.
Thank you. Members, I am with the Institute of the Black World, and we worked along with CAT to pass Proposition 64 because we are focused on ending the war on drugs. We are now turning our attention to the question of equity in the industry. For us, it means first, setting standards, two, setting review and reporting. But it starts with the concept and the belief that this industry must have equity. So we wanted to come and talk about that as you regulate, as you look. First, standards. What are equitable standards? Secondly, review, and then finally, reporting to make sure that the standards are lived up to. So we want to go on record in support of equity in the industry and as you regulate it. So thank you.
Well, Akili, I can see that you still don't need a microphone. I mean, your voice is every bit as strong as it was when I met you 100 years ago. Okay, David? Yes, sir.
Hi there. My name is David Green. I'm also from San Pedro. I'm very happy that the neighborhood councils are being proactive towards this issue. And as an American, kind of liberty and pursuit of happiness is very important to me. And so, you know, you talked about like public consumption. It would be very nice to be able to socialize with other like-minded people and have as much liberty as we can have without impinging on someone else. In San Pedro, there were a lot of different dispensaries, and most of them have been closed, and that was very disappointing to me. And part of that is that I really like entrepreneurship, small business, and local hire and things. And that's what I saw in the dispensaries that I visited. And I'm just hoping that as the process moves forward, it looks like it's going to be that way, that those sorts of principles and ideas are adhered to. And this older white guy would like to see more diversity, too, in ownership and participation in this market.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Spindler, if you're still here, and Mr. Herman. Okay, I called your names. You weren't here. Okay, I want to thank all of you for coming out. This is the beginning. I say this every meeting. This is the beginning. It is not the end. We have a lot of conversations that we still have to have. I have questions. I want to know things like, you know, what's the starting pay at the lowest level? You know, and I think somebody told me $20 or what have you. So I have so many questions, and that's why we're going to keep this dialogue going. So, Mr. Clerk, what we're going to do is we're going to, and I want to thank Mateus, I want to thank you in the CAO's office for the work that you've done in your report. And Mr. Clerk, without objection, I'm going to hold this item in committee so that we can continue our dialogue. So if there's anybody else, in fact, and I guess I close the hearing. In fact, with that said, I'm going to close the committee hearing. I know there are no more cards. Thank all of you for coming down. This is the quickest one we've ever had. So anyway, good to see so many of you. Stan Lee, I see you out there.
Would you like to adjourn the meeting, sir?
I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Avis, I see you as well. It's always a pleasure to see you. Didn't I say I want to? I say, Mr. Clerk, didn't I say I want to end it? Isn't adjourn and end the same? Maybe I didn't say end. All this marijuana talk is. Yeah.